Imagine for a second that that poor little guy was you. You're part of a massive army and you're about to go to war with the Romans for control of a city that you deeply care about. Out of nowhere, a massive boulder flies through the sky and hits you in the face. Literally just you in the face. It misses the entire cavalry, the swordsman, doesn't hit anyone else, literally just you. You go down and you're dead. That'd be a pretty epic way to go out, I think, and your friends and your fellow soldiers would have a good story to tell your parents and your kids and their kids and their kids' kids. It'd be a pretty cool way to die. Probably wouldn't feel anything either, it'd just be bam, boulder, face mask, see ya, you're gone. Enough of the small talk, there's war to be had, and I was lucky enough to be sent a review copy of Total War Rome 2. If you've played any of the Total War games, you'll know exactly what this game's about. I imagine a lot of people watching this video probably haven't, because I've mainly got a first person shooter based audience, but it's basically about epic battles. You can replay crucial moments in history. There's lots of tactics and strategy involved, online matchmaking so you can go to war with your friends, campaigns, individual battles that you can take part in. It's pretty awesome and it's full of content. If you're thinking about picking up this game and you're a new player, I'd definitely recommend playing through the prologue first. It's essentially a tutorial, it's about 3 hours long, and it's like a little mini campaign with a bit of narrative story in there. Teaches you the basics, how to fight, how to set your army up, how to manage their stances. It teaches you all about the buffs that they have, and it's a really nice introduction to the Total War series. Of course, if you played a Total War game already, then you'll feel right at home, except for there are a few new features that they've added, like politics. They've also added a line of sight system, so when you're playing the game and you see this eye symbol, that actually means that your units are essentially stealthed, and you can use hills, valleys and forests as cover. So if you're in cover, then the enemy team can't see you if they haven't got line of sight on you. And it's, again, that's adding more tactics and depth to the game, about positioning your units correctly and making sure that some are hidden. For example, you could bait some cavalry into a forest where you're hiding like some elite swordsmen or something, or like a group of archers outside the forest. There's all sorts of stuff you can do with the new line of sight mechanic. It's pretty cool. Of course, they've got the matchmaking in there as always. It's been improved a lot, skill based as you'd expect. So many factions in this game as well, and they've each got their own individual units. Aside from like low level missile units and spearmen, each faction has their own sort of distinct units and distinct styles. I mean, there is some crossover, but between like land units, auxiliaries, artillery, ships, mercenaries, each faction that you play as has got their own individual things going on. Different units, of course, depending on who you play as, that are unique to each faction. The Egyptians, for example, get camels and war elephants. There's Dumbo charging into battle. That was quite a unique experience. Also, the Egyptians get swordsmen who are trained in traditional Egyptian techniques, like no one else gets those. You also get scythe chariots. I think some of the other factions actually have scythe chariots, but I mean, you can even be the Spartans if you want and reenact the entire feature film 300 if you like, and do a really bad Gerard Butler impression if that floats your boat. Rome, of course, have a pretty badass army as well. You get Macedon, Paria, Carthage, loads more. I'm just trying to think off the top of my head, but there's loads of factions you can play as, loads of different units and plenty of variety in there. They've added loads of new fighting animations as well, so if you zoom into the battle and get a close-up look at everything, you'll notice the characters look very detailed. They're not really low poly at this distance. There's new like finishing animations, so every once in a while you'll see like a character do a cool sort of like finishing move on an enemy, and there's quite a large pool of those so they don't get repetitive. There's so many of those been added to the game. There's battle chatter as well, so again, if you're zoomed in and your troops are like idle, not doing anything, they sort of talk to each other, so they might try and psych each other up, or they might insult each other's mothers, or they might talk about a prostitute that they didn't pay. There's all sorts of little funny quips and quirks. They talk to each other, and it is quite humorous sometimes, I'll be honest, when they're just waiting around to go and kill a load of people. Along with that, you've got the combat formations, of course, so you can arrange your troops in different manners. The flying wedge is definitely my favourite, probably because of the way it sounds rather than the way it looks. Morale buffs and debuffs you can apply to yourself and to the enemy team. There's also a new mass system, so if you're like on a horse, like you've got a big group of cavalry running down a hill towards some soldiers and you sort of like ram into them, then a load of those soldiers are probably going to end up flowing because obviously they've got more inertia behind them. The horse has more force than the guy that's standing still, and it's going to be like a bowling ball hitting a group of skittles, and it's very nice to look at. Myself, I'm not a big strategy gamer anymore. I played a lot of strategy games when I was younger, like Command & Conquer, Red Alert, but I'm mainly about first-person shooters and action now. But I do occasionally like to play a strategy game like this. The Total War series in particular I always come back to because it's got this rock, paper, scissors gameplay mentality. It's very strategic and tactical with all the special abilities your units have, the stances, the buffs like I talked about earlier. You've got to protect your general. There's also friendly fire, so I'd be really stupid if I just ordered my archers to fire into a group of enemies that are already engaged in a skirmish with some of my swordsmen, because I would actually end up killing a lot of my swordsmen. So in other games those swordsmen would probably be completely fine and be immune to friendly fire, but in Rome Total War 2, no, they're gonna, if you're sending arrows in there, they're gonna take a few hits, so you've got to be careful. One thing I find as well, actually, when I'm playing these Total War games, I actually learn more about history than I ever did in history class at school. Probably because I'd fallen asleep because I played too much Counter-Strike the night before and I didn't go to bed early enough. But you do, I mean, it throws all this information at you and it's voiced by cool voice actors and it's all there on the screen for you. You find out where on the map these historic battles took place, what the important parts of the world were, the territories that each faction controlled, and who overthrew who. It's cool, and it's nice to learn about this sort of stuff. All in all, Total War Rome 2, fantastic game. It builds on the original, which was released in 2004. Obviously that was a long time ago. Technology has advanced a lot since then. Even so, the original Rome Total War game got so much praise when it was released. I remember like seeing the reviews of it in like PC Zone and PC Gamer and all over the web. There wasn't like a bad review of it, and it quickly found its way into like the top 10 PC games list because it's just that epic. Like, even if you don't like strategy games, give this a go, see what you think. There's so much depth here, and I think you guys will like it. Of course, it's made by the same studio that made the original Rome Total War, so it's got that nice feeling. They know exactly what they're doing with these sort of games. It's bigger, it's better, there's plenty more features in there, including new gameplay features which shake things up a little bit. More advanced, the graphics are better, and it's just an overall bigger, broader experience that I think even non-strategy fans could actually enjoy. And that's about it for today's video, guys. I'm going to go to a fancy dress shop, get myself a costume. I'm actually going to go and do some LARPing this weekend, prance around a field, lightning bolt, you know, that sort of thing. We're going to recreate the Battle of Hastings and see what happens. Although I do have a cardboard shield, so we'll see how that goes. Probably going to lose. You never know, the gods might be on our side. Thanks for watching, guys. As always, please leave a rating and a comment, and I'll see you in the next one.